Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode number 17 of the NFP podcast presented by 3D Entertainment. The NFP podcast is brought to you by Sneaky Weasel Lager and Hey Y'all Southern Iced Tea, the official alcohol sponsor of the show. As well, our official clothing sponsor, Wrangler. Long live Cowboys. Good to have everybody back this week. A lot of bull riding on this weekend, a lot of big time scores, big time money. Before we get into that, let me introduce you to the boys. First up, Jason Davidson. How you doing, JD?
Too bad, Red. What about you?
I'm good, man. Hanging out. Snow's melting. Weather's getting nicer. I can almost see the golf course. So
no, it just come back. Where are you living today, bro?
There's no snow here. No, we skipped
Really?
it. We're far enough north.
Oh, that's too bad because I'd like to go sledding one more weekend.
Oh, yeah. Fuck that. I'm done with the snow, man. I'm done with the snow.
You don't have a sled. That's the
Yeah,
first time.
exactly.
I'm not shitting you. And as long as I can remember, I ever prayed for snow.
Yeah, well.
This winter.
Fuck.
And just north of Petrovka Bridge, though. None south.
Exactly. Scott Byrne joins us as well. Scott, how you doing?
Good, fellas. How are you? It's good to see your smiling faces again. Jason, I would think after that last comment, you're an official sled head. Would that be
No
right?
shit. Oh, my
sled
God.
head. Well,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sled head.
sure. I'll go with that, I guess. That's
Sled neck.
the handle you want to put on me.
Yeah, the weather's looking nice. Forecast is looking nice here. So been planning a little bit of once the government side of things open up, we'll plan some outdoor bull riding, smaller ones that we can get out. I've been talking with Josh Barise and the Scories and kind of get a little bit of a tour together if we can get that going here, NFP style. A little bit of fun stuff going on that way. So we'll see how that kind of plays out, depending on the rules and regulations. But at this point, I think everybody's ready to just fucking get things going. So like you guys know, once the weather gets fucking nicer and everybody wants to get outside, I'm sure everybody will be like,
well, the days are stretching out, so that's what I like. I'm up now 6:30, 6:45, and I get down to the office and I get a lot of my stuff. What are you shaking your head for? You think this boat floats just sleeping in every day?
Yeah.
I'm texting you at 6:45 tomorrow morning.
Yeah,
and I want a response in a minute.
That's fine. That's fine. Twyla would be real happy to hear that phone going off at 6:45.
Yeah.
Well, if you're gonna have this little tour, the next generation of Byrne bullfighters is kicking her off. He's going to another school, Braden. He's gonna be looking for jobs, cousin.
Oh yeah.
Fucking right. So
I'll tell you what, I know that kid well enough. He is gonna be relentless.
Yeah.
You'll be blocking his freaking caller ID.
Yeah, I don't have to tell those boys about promoting yourself and like squeaky wheel gets the grease. Yeah, that'll be there.
Get the job done.
Motto, yeah. So anyway,
Scott, did you get your sneaky weasel yet?
That's a big negative there, Ghost Rider. The pattern is still full, apparently.
I
drank.
I even checked my mailbox. I thought I might get one can. I've been even opening up my little mailbox, open one can, nothing.
But did you see? I think it was on Instagram. There was a picture of like a pyramid on Tanner's bar.
Yeah. No, I saw it. I did.
Yeah. I don't know
you guys,
what's going on there.
Guess where those are at?
In your belly.
In my belly. Yeah. No, the other weekend also too, I had we were talking on the last pod. I had Bo Byrne and Logan Cadlick up, and there was a stack in my room, in like my spare room, and it's all gone. So I think those boys might have snaked a little bit of sneaky weasel for themselves there on the road.
Those sneaky little weasels.
Yeah, exactly.
If we don't get an event going at the Byrne residence soon, Scott, we are gonna have to go buy our own, I think.
Yeah,
I believe so.
Yeah, doors always open. I'm out. Other than that, it was pretty low-key weekend around here, but there was a lot of bull riding action going on in the USA. Pensacola, Florida was the Velocity event. Kansas City, Missouri, both popping off. Bunch of good bull rides all around and tons of action, both bull wise, both rider wise, Canadian guy wise. Jake Gardner steps out, gets across the line, and shows what he's all about. Gets an 85 in round one.
Yeah, gets a little placed sixth, I believe, in the round and finished 11th overall. Good work for him. How about Proctor, our old buddy Shane Proctor? You know,
Yep.
he was riding bulls when you were in diapers still, Tanner. But Scott and I, I think I even fought some bulls for Shane Proctor once upon a time.
Heck yeah.
Yeah,
Proctor.
he's brand new dad too, and he's just giving her. Good for him. That was good to see. I like to see the old guys come through with the win.
When you say old, how old would Proctor be?
32, 33-ish
Yeah.
in there.
Yeah,
Shit, he
probably,
won
yeah.
the PCA World Championship. It seems like a long time ago.
No, it wasn't that long ago though, actually. And he was still on tour when he stopped going to PBR events. He made the world finals. He came to New York, and just because he wanted to come to New York one more time, and then he just went rodeoing after that. But he was still on tour. He was still at the top of his game, and just wanted to go ride bucking horses and shit as well. So
yeah, he was entering the bronc riding too.
Yeah, been to the bareback riding. Yeah, been to the world final or bronc riding.
Bronc
riding. Yeah, been to the world final.
I got it right here. His birthday tomorrow. It's his birthday tomorrow. He is going to be how old tomorrow? Do you guys think?
35.
Close. 36 tomorrow.
Wow. Yeah. So yeah.
He's the same age as me.
Yeah, that's good though, and I think with that'll get him a spot at the next event on the UTB series. So we'll
I wonder if he chooses to go. Or
I'm sure he will right now with nothing really going on, right? I'm sure.
What's next weekend?
Louisville, Kentucky is next weekend. There's also a 15-15 at that one, so that'll be some more action for the guys and a bunch of good matchups. But before we get into that, we can get back to Kansas City, Missouri.
Yeah.
Huge rides, record-setting rides.
Who's got the number one bull?
I'm guessing you now after the 47-point out from Whoopa.
Yeah.
Not a bad pick. Not a bad pick.
Yeah. We'll give it
But
to
you watch this. You watch that bull. The last 3 outs that he's had has been spurred around to the left. We'll see if he gets smart. Maybe switches it up, goes back left. Pro Bull Stats had a tweet about how that bull lets you get away with just diving around there to the left and kicking loose because he's just going to stay hooked and keep going that way. So he's no slump. He's 47.5-point bull. You get 95.5s like Boudreaux Campbell did on him.
Mm-hmm.
But he's one that kind of like a bruiser where if you're doing things right, you can get the job done. You stub your toe, he's going to buck you off. But a lot of those other, like McBride talked about last week, a lot of those world champion bulls, there's some that you're supposed to ride, some that have a lot more difficulty to them. And that's one that, if he does become a world champion bull, is one that looks like he rides good. And the guys should be picking him first, as Boudreaux did. And he had to pick that bull knowing that as a right-handed rider, Cooper Davis was picking second. Cooper's going to pick Chiseled and be anywhere from 90 to 94 that he was. So if Boudreaux would have tried to have the easy way out and pick something maybe a little bit nicer, he wouldn't have been enough points. He had to be that 95.5, which is crazy to think, but had to be 95.5 to win that event and pulled it off.
And Cooper third? Did Cooper get a third?
Yeah,
second.
Cooper was second. Yeah, with 94.
I would have 2 number ones right now if I would have went with my gut. You guys want to? I'll tell you what. I'll make you a deal. I'm willing to donate.
No.
Don't listen. I'm willing to donate $300 to the Ty Posabon Foundation today.
Well, you should just do that anyway.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay, now here comes the guilt.
I think
this is just bragging rights, right? It's
but you were the one who said right from the start, no fucking participation medals, none of that shit. No fucking change it up. You stick with your guns. God dang it.
Okay.
Who knows? You never know.
I think it's Cooper Davis's birthday today too, by the way.
It is. Yeah, happy birthday, Cooper Davis.
Happy birthday to a former guest of the NFP podcast, Cooper Davis. Hope you have a good one, buddy.
You're really good. So with that, right, I don't know if you guys watched on the weekend, but Boudreaux Campbell, when he's on, he's on. Like he's on. Even in the long round, the last day, he had a ball away from his hand that really bucked away from his hand. He was a good score on him. And I think Boudreaux's key to success is controlling that free arm. at the NFR when he was having trouble, and then he was injured after that and stuff. So he's just kind of getting back. So we're finally seeing the Boudreaux Campbell that we've seen at the World Finals last year. But you watch that free arm when it gets whipping way behind, and it looks good when he's getting lots of points out of him. But on those ranked bulls, it gets whipped behind him and he gets bucked off. And he rode 3 ranked bulls this weekend, and it looked like that was his main focus, was just controlling that thing. So I'm betting McBride and JW Hart and those guys that are, helping those guys out and talking to those guys are really pushing that for him. And it looked like he just had that thing crisp. That free arm wasn't going past his shoulders and riding. And I think he can keep that under control. He's unstoppable.
That's like Justin McBride said, he just kept it to the 5 basic things. And that's probably what Boudreaux went back to. Just went back to riding bulls, right? And
yeah, because he had hell in at the NFR there. What did he get? Did he get 1 road? Was it 1 out of 10?
Yeah, it wasn't a bunch.
He got 1.
Yeah.
And he come off such a stellar finals, obviously, right? So I really expected way bigger things out of him at Globe Life Field during the NFR. Like I thought, maybe a world title might be out of reach. He was far enough behind those guys like Sage and whatnot. But to pick up 150,000 at the NFR and the bull riding, you just need to ride 5 bulls. Right, ride half your bulls, you could win that much money. So we'll see what he does.
Especially coming off of the world PBR World Finals where he won against all those guys. It was like, oh, this guy's gonna fucking cakewalk through the NFR.
Yeah, and we can, and you'd probably get some argument from PRCA riders, but I would be a higher caliber of bulls.
Yeah, I think
obviously at AT&T opposed to across the road at Globe Life, but that's just me.
And it
not
could have
pick a fight.
It could possibly play into his head too, though, a little bit when you just go and fucking kill it at the World Finals, and then you're going to the NFR and you're like, well, fuck, I just beat those guys. Come on, here we go, and that could be in the back of your mind, and you've seen that happen many a times going in too confident or whatever might happen.
You're right, Tanner. You let your foot off the gas just a smidge, and you hit the ditch. So. You're right.
I remember Rob Bell did it twice. Came from the PBR World Finals to the Canadian Finals rodeo, and I know he rode all 6 one year and maybe 5 out of 6 the other year, and won 2 Canadian championships. I remember it was just like it was. He rode Tadpole. You remember that bull of Franklin's, black white face muley. Yep. And I think he might have been the Buck and Bull of the year if I recall. He would have just dead easy.
It's a mind game, man. It's your confidence, and when you're on a roll, right? And if you can use that to your advantage, and I kind of want to go back to Justin McBride's interview when he's just, you listen to the words that are coming out of his mouth, talking about the highest level and the highest ranked bulls of Little Yellow Jacket and Mudslinger, and just it wasn't nothing that he did. He was lucky to do. He had a mindset that was made for success, made to be a champion, and that's why he was able to do what he did, right? It's just you can see it in his everyday life what he does. He just, once you got that focus and you have that ability, you put it all together and shit's gonna happen. But if you told me that I should ride one of those world champion bulls easy, I'd be like, oh fuck, I'd feel lucky if I got him rode, right?
Right. And that goes back to, in that conversation with Justin, and don't take this the wrong way, but it was easy for him. I know it was hard to get to that point, but once he had it mentally figured out, it just seemed easier than the average guy that can't get that squared away, right? That mental game.
Yeah, fucking right. So that's good to see. But yeah, the overshadowing that we won't forget, we touched on it, but Cooper Davis was 94 points as well, which was probably, I think Lemme was 94 and a bit in Fort Worth the other weekend, and then Cooper 94. Usually that's the highest mark ride of the season for sure, a 94 point score the last I don't know how many years, right? And that right now is the 3rd highest score on the season, so it's pretty wild what we're getting to see.
Did you see he was it the first night the fireworks went off? Was he was nodding? Was that? He put a post out and just said he didn't know whether to let go or get on or whatever, right? Nod his head and go.
Yeah, that was pretty good. Yeah. So yeah, he rode good, and he had to really hunker it down in the second round. He was half bucked off and hung upside for a little bit, and he's just really showing that he's wanting that world championship this year. That it doesn't matter what stands in his way, he's going to go for first. And there a lot of talk online was he really was the biggest winner of the weekend because he still stayed in that number one position. Kaique Pacheco's on his heels. Kaique stays on as well as 88, 89 in the short round, rides hocus pocus, but Cooper was able to smash a 94, win second in the event, and keep that world title dream alive.
Yeah, he doesn't have a comfortable lead on anybody. No. So
not this, especially this early in the year. Like,
yeah.
So really did you guys see JB's taking a break from the Unleash the Beast tour?
Yes. After we talked about last week of him taking his world championship exemptions, he still has them, so he can come back whenever he wants to use those exemption events. And he said he's still going to try to make the world finals this year, but it looks to me like he's just going to hit that rodeo trail for a little bit and let things calm down and see how that goes.
Yeah, I seen a ride. Oh heck, where was it from on the weekend? And he rode one dead easy. And maybe that's the confidence builders that he needs to get rolling again at the PBR level, right?
Yeah, Montgomery. Was it Montgomery, Alabama?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Speaking of Alabama, the Alabama Slamma, Ross Hill. I don't know if you guys got to meet Ross ever. I did here in Saskatoon one year. Unfortunate incident. He rolled a side by side, pulling a buddy out, and lost his life on the weekend. So that was kind of sad. I didn't know Ross great, but I watched a lot of the tribute videos and stuff. It looked like he really had a passion for helping other bullfighters, like the young guys, and Weston Rostowski. He had a really nice post about he wouldn't be where he's at. Not a lot of people know that, but he just wouldn't be at where he is today in the world of professional bullfighting if it wasn't for Ross. So, our thoughts and prayers out to Ross's family. That's pretty unfortunate.
Mercer as well had a good Canadian world champion, had a big write up and a lot of good things to say about Ross about the first time he ever went down there, and Ross was the one who kind of made him feel at home and took him to his first events and stuff like that. So yeah, Ross was I got to meet Ross a couple times down there, and he was a cool motherfucker, man. He was a wildcat, lived life to the fullest, didn't give a damn.
He reminded me so much of Greg Rumer. Both those guys shot for Shane Franklin, right? So I don't know if that's something that it's in the water around that Bonnieville area or what, but boy, the characteristics between the two guys were so similar.
Shane had a Facebook post. Sorry, Scott. Shane had a Facebook post that said, I don't know however they met, but he hired Ross up, picked him up from the airport and said, I'm going to dock your paycheck if you go to the fence. And he said, well, then get ready to fucking pay me double because you won't see me on the fence.
Well, that would have been the perfect fit right there. They'd loved each other, right? I'm like you, Tanner. I met him a couple times down there at the bullfights, just quick chat and whatever. And I guess our connection was he had been in Canada and worked in Canada for Shane. And yeah, when he shook your hand, he was just beaming all the time. He was always full of energy and very upbeat. And that was in all those posts. That was the common thread in those. He was lived life and wanted to see other people do good. So I am saying that when he came up to Canada, he would rent like a popcorn machine and a candy floss machine and set it out on the midway or out in front of the arena and make a little extra dough, make some extra loonies and toonies, right?
No shit.
I read that. Yeah, I read that. Is that fact? That was fact.
That's fact. 100%. Yeah, I talked to him about it in Duluth, Georgia one time. He was laughing. He's like, yeah, fuck, I used to go to those vendors and give them shit because they were selling it cheaper than I was, and they were fucking undercutting me while I was fighting bulls. Yeah. No, he was an innovator. He's one of a kind, that's for sure. So our thoughts and prayers are with Ross Hill's family and friends. That's for sure.
Yeah, too bad.
Okay, well, Sneaky Weasel Lager. If you're looking for a smooth, refreshing beer this weekend, grab yourself a Sneaky Weasel Craft Lager. This mildly hopped craft lager delivers a bold 5.6 ABV, but goes down crisp and clean. This beer pairs well with any bull riding celebration, fun in the sun, and good times with friends. This beer is available all across of Western Canada. Sneaky Weasel Lager, the official beer sponsor of the NFP podcast. Guys, Chase Outlaw returned to action at the highest level. What an awesome sight to see, and to smash out an 89, get to his first short round again this year. He wasn't around at all in 2019. Those shoulder surgeries, we've been talking about it. Great to see him back.
How'd he look? I didn't watch it. Did he look like just himself?
It was 89. He rode Bullseye, which is a bull that's in the short round a lot of times. Really good bull. One that the guys like to get on, but once again, one of those ones that you stub your toe, he's gonna put your dick in the dirt. So Chase rode him really well, made the short round. He picked a bull, Smooth Wreck, who he's rode a few times, bucked off a few times, had a 94, I think, on him one time, picked him again and threw him off. But to come back and ride a bull like Bullseye, and then to pick that kind of bull in the short round shows his confidence. And I think he's just going to get to roll in here now.
Well, and how exciting the PBR and the fans are to have him back. Can you imagine how fast his motor was running coming into that? I mean, he'd have been chomping at the bit for how many months?
RPMs would have been red lines.
Yeah, it's good for him and good for the sport to have him back, because he brings a lot to it. That's 100%. For sure.
Yeah, definitely. So we'll look for him to keep that going. Speaking of Chase, that'll lead into our guest today as well. Mr. Ryan Bingham joins us today. We're very honored to have this guy on the show. If you guys watch Yellowstone, you'll know who he is. Walker from Yellowstone, and singer songwriter and all around good dude. Just a cowboy from back in the day, and I think it's going to be pretty fun to have a chat with him.
Yeah, I'm excited. Just I've listened to some of his music and stuff, and then to watch him on Yellowstone, and I think he's a cool dude. I just like the way he cusses on Yellowstone. He's just like motherfucker, and he calls it like it is. So, no, I'm excited. I'm looking forward to this one for sure.
He'll talk with anybody on the street corner. He'll try to bring everybody's day up, and he's just a good all around guy. And I think everybody's gonna enjoy listening to what he has to say.
And the biggest takeaway I have from this is it wasn't easy for him, and that's what I appreciate about guys, like just knowing how tough it was for him to get where they're at. You can really relate to it a little bit when things weren't so damn easy when you're 21, 22, it's paycheck to paycheck, or in his case, wondering how he's going to get enough fuel to get to the next gig. Like he worked for everything he's got. So yeah, cool dude, real cool cat.
Well, before we get to that, we got one more ad read. Manscaped. Support for the NFP podcast is brought to you by Manscaped, who is the best in men's below-the-waist grooming. Manscaped offers precision-engineered tools for your family jewels. They obsess over their technology developments to provide you the best tools for your grooming experience. Manscaped is trusted by over 2 million men worldwide. We have an exclusive offer for our listeners, 20% off plus free shipping with the code NFP20 at manscaped.com. That's capitalized NFP20 at manscaped.com. Manscaped has created the best ball hair trimmer ever. The Lawnmower 3.0, the third generation trimmer, features a cutting-edge ceramic blade to reduce grooming accidents. Thanks to their advanced skin-safe technology, I now feel comfortable shaving my boys. What about you guys?
Well, I'm just going to say they got 2,000,001
yes
fans now. I got mine. I'm telling you, I'm wearing Manscaped Gitch, Manscaped t-shirt. Yeah, it's good.
Oh, nice soft t-shirt, eh?
Yeah.
Love the tee.
Yeah.
Love the tee.
Yep. Yeah. Did you guys try out the lawnmower with the light? It works, doesn't it?
Yeah, and the best part is you can do it in the dark and the shower.
Yep. Double down.
It's waterproof?
Oh yeah.
Waterproof?
Waterproof.
You just throw that light on high beam and let the good times roll.
Dang right. Get 20% off and free shipping with the code NFP20 at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com and use the code NFP20, capitalized NFP. Unlock your confidence and always use the right tools for the job with Manscaped. Okay, fellas, without further ado, let's throw it over to our interview with the legend, Ryan Bingham. Our guest today is an American singer-songwriter, actor, and a cowboy, a winner of an Academy Award, a Golden Globe, Critics' Choice Award, as well as a Grammy. Not bad. Most recently, you'll recognize him as Walker from the hit show Yellowstone. A jack of all trades and an all-around good dude, Ryan fucking Bingham. Bingham, how you doing today, man? Welcome to the NFP podcast. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me. Good to see you.
You too. You too. So what's been going on in your world? I know everything's kind of shut down concert-wise with COVID and all that, but what's been keeping you busy?
Man, yeah, I've just been kind of rolling with it, getting ready to head back up to Montana for another season of Yellowstone here pretty soon. So I was real fortunate to have that to be working on, definitely not being able to get on the road and kind of play music or sing for my supper as I usually do, So real fortunate to be able to work on that show, get ready to go up there. At the end of last season, I tore my ACL in like one of the last episodes. We were doing like a big fight scene. And so I've been doing a lot of physical therapy and just, trying to get back in fighting shape, so to speak.
Oh shit.
Doing that, hanging out with my kids and writing some songs. And, man, that's about it. Just trying to kind of stay healthy, stay sane, and stay in the game,
Fucking A. Bull riding injury probably. Hey, the old ACL. Tweaked.
Yeah, for sure, man. Definitely feeling that stuff.
Okay. So before we get into nowadays, and I know it's probably shitty to talk about in every fucking thing that you go on, you have to talk about it, but your story is truly one of a kind. And I want to go back to your early days and your upbringing. It was kind of a fucked up situation, kind of shaped who you are nowadays. But can you walk us through those early days?
Yeah. I was originally born in Hobbs, New Mexico, right on the kind of state line of New Mexico and Texas. You could almost be considered part of West Texas. It's a couple hours from Lubbock there. And my family ranched out there for many generations. About the time I was born, they sold the ranch, and most people went to work in the oil fields, all through there, Permian Basin. And when I was about 4 or 5 years old, we all packed up and moved out to Bakersfield, California. And my granddad and uncles and them all worked in the oil fields out there in Oildale and Bell Ridge and around those parts. And spent some years out there and eventually moved back to Texas, so kind of around the Midland and Odessa area, still chasing that oil field stuff. And just moved all over Texas from there, every little town. Went down to Houston for a while, was in Laredo, and then ended up back around Stephenville, Texas, around Fort Worth. My uncle got me into riding steers when I was a kid, and going to junior rodeos. And so that's kind of what I did. He rode bulls, and I grew up wanting to be like him, and eventually got to go ride bulls there at Tarleton State and Stephenville, and got my pro card for a couple of years. And that's when I started playing music. Had a guitar, running around with my buddies, going to rodeos on the weekend and just making up songs about what we were getting into and where we were going. You know how that is. And playing on the tailgate of the truck in the parking lot. And just kind of to summarize all that. That's how I got me to the place I am here, for sure.
Yeah, definitely. So rode steers, went to college, riding bulls, got your pro card for a while, like you said. Where does Mac Altizer and Bad Company Rodeo come into play? Because that was a big part of your life, correct?
Yeah, man, that's a big part. Is when I moved to Stephenville. I was living with a guy named Corey McFadden, which actually I learned how to ride bulls. That's where I really learned how to ride bulls, at his dad's place there in Crane. He'd always keep a little handful of bucking bulls, and we'd go out there and ride on the weekends. And when I got to Stephenville, he had just graduated and I was just kind of coming in, and he had an empty room or a couch, and I ended up there with him and a guy named Randall Thornton and a couple other revolving characters, Tony Booth and Blue Bryant was there for a while. And
Blue.
And but we lived just about a couple of miles down from the rodeo arena.
Okay.
We had pro rodeo, and I'd known Mac from younger years, my uncle riding bulls, and then just kind of approached him one day when I started really writing songs and playing guitar, and I went down there to the rodeo in there in town, and he had it on. I was actually riding in the rodeo, riding bulls, and just went and asked him if I could play some guitar afterwards for the cowboy hospitality thing. And he just hired me on the spot to not only do that, he's like, well, just go ahead and get in the truck and drive down to the ranch. We're going to need you down there too. So he just kind of volunteered me to fucking work full time for him. He's like, yeah, why don't you play at the barbecue, and then also need you to haul some steers for me. So, here's a truck and a gas card, and see you in Sonora.
Was it when we grew up, Scott and I are a different generation, obviously, than you and Tanner with the Western Lifestyle and Rodeo. But I remember like the Bad to the Bone tour. And everybody talking about like it was like a rock show at a Mac Altizer rodeo. All the bulls were named after songs and whatnot. Mm-hmm. Would you say that was kind of influential for you in your music career, do you think, Ryan?
Oh, it was huge, man. Because I remember being 13 years old before I'd ever been to Stephenville, and I was living in kind of around Midland and Odessa, Texas. And there was a bar cantina called Dos Amigos there. I don't know if you guys were familiar with it, but it was a.
Well, I know the tequila.
It was a bar. It was a bar. It was just a bar in Odessa, and they had bull riding there. It had a little round pen with 2 buck and shoots, and man, they buck bulls on Sundays. And Matt came down there and put on a bull riding one weekend, and man, all the Tough showed up, Jim Sharp, Ty, like all these guys showed up, and I think it was kind of during the pro rodeo there in Odessa. And it was just like the biggest fucking party I'd ever seen. Charlie Thompson would usually put it on, and he'd always bring like a couple little junior bulls so I could get on something while I was there.
No shit.
And so I got to get in the mix, and they bucked one out and let me get on one. And man, like you said, every bull that came out had a name and a song that would play, and just like it was just a party. And when I really kind of started working with Mac and doing that, he really showed me, kind of how to do that. He's like, show up and put on a show. And it was more than just, kind of going through the motions. And he definitely taught me a lot and learned a lot from that guy.
He was kind of the first one to do that, correct? Too, like the when he was inducted into the Ring of Honor last year with the PBR, Cody Lambert and all those guys were talking about Bad Company being the first ever, Mac to kind of what the PBR is now. He kind of started that from back in the day. So that's pretty amazing. What about Del Rio? Did you ever take in? Yeah, Super Bowl, right? Yeah,
down there in Del Rio, we put that on, and man, that was, you'd go over to, we'd get down to the Del Rio, and then we'd go over to Acuna in New Mexico, and they'd have the Calcutta the night before, and and then the bull riding was the next day, and it was all just bull riding, and it was cool. And I always remember Mac though too, because he grew up, did a lot of timed events too, and even though he was very I don't know, kind of started with the thing with the whole bull ride, he was always very kind of considerate, passionate about all the other events too. I remember him always talking about that, being like, man, you can't forget about everybody else, it's
that's
like,
right.
The barrel racers, pin ropers, calf ropers, bulldoggers, and so he was always just a big kind of he was always just kind of supportive of the whole thing.
An advocate for the whole sport. Yeah, Mac was right up there in the steer trip and standings for a few years. Like I forgot about that, but yeah, that's bang on. Mm-hmm. He was one of the best steer trippers in the business in his prime. Yeah.
So what about you talk about Corey McFadden and he kind of helped you a lot and you traveled with him. Who else did you travel with? And the music stuff you're talking, you just kind of, I remember some stories of them sneaking into bars and shit. And that's kind of your first taste of playing in front of people is that kind of how that all went down?
Yeah, it was really, when I got to Stephenville, and I'd been living in Laredo before then, you know, and I was going to a bunch of bull ridings down in Mexico, and was just kind of entrenched in this other fucking world, to be honest with you. You know, I mean, most of the bands we'd see were Tejano bands, you know, and these rodeos and these big fairs down in Saltillo and Monterey and Chihuahua, and we'd go. These guys I met were hauling me around, and so when I got back to Stephenville, it was kind of like, I don't know, it's kind of like coming back in from outer space in a way, you know. You know,
You probably grew up a lot of years in that time traveling through Mexico.
You know, yeah, down there on the border, and you know, it was still the Wild West down there, you know, and I was 17, 18, rolling pretty hard down there. And so when I got to Stephenville, I didn't, you know, people didn't really kind of know what to think of me, where I was coming from. But I was playing guitar, and, you know, I was riding bulls, and meeting back with Corey Mack and those guys was just something that was close to home and felt like home. And at the bars there were these just great bands that were playing every weekend, and like these kind of local Texas Americana bands. I think the first concert I saw was Robert O'Keen there, and like Pat Green and Corey Morrow and these guys from Oklahoma, this Cross Canadian Ragweed and Jason Boland, and all these bands were playing this circuit, you know, and they would go down and hit all the college towns. And you know, I was playing the guitar, and then every Wednesday they would have like these open mic nights where, you know, guys could come up and play a few songs. And I met some guys there at Tarleton. It's got Jeremy Hughes from Louisiana, another guy named Chad Castillo, and a handful of other guys that, you know, were riding there. And they would always encourage me to get my guitar out and play a song and get up there and go. And there was another little bar in Steveville. It was called the Waterhole, and it was just a little bar on a 9-hole golf course there in town where we'd go drink beer. And they just assumed that because I was with Corey Mack and all those guys, that I was old enough to drink and be in, because we'd be the only ones in there. So I just rolled in, and they just always assumed that I was of age. But hell, I was fucking probably 19, you know, at the time. And eventually I'd get my guitar and play, and they start letting me play, you know, once a week in there. And yeah, that just kind of started it all, you know.
So when do you go to the Wild West show on the Disney Resort? You go to Paris for a little while. Was that during that time, or?
Yeah, it was pretty close. Well, I was up there. I was in Stephenville there for a couple of years, and then when I started working with Mac, he just kind of took me. You know, I ended up, I was either at the ranch with him or working down there, or kind of in and out of the Austin area trying to play gigs. And I was actually down at the Super Bowl one year, and I don't remember what it was, but I ran into this guy, Barry Tubb. He's an actor, and he played Jasper in Lonesome Dove. He played Wolfman in the movie Top Gun, and a bunch of other stuff. He's, you know, a wonderful actor, been in a bunch of stuff. But I met him, and he had actually known my uncle back in the day and had some family connections there. And he said saw us playing guitar and could do the cowboy stuff. And he's like, "Man, have you ever been over to Europe, and would you like to go?" And I said, "Yeah, I'll give it a shot." And so he hooked me up with these guys in this Wild West show over in Disneyland in Paris, and fucking away I went.
You didn't have any fun in Paris, did you?
I didn't have any at all. There's no fun to be had over there, because we had it all.
So you talk about one time you were talking about how you used to write all your songs down and have them all in a book, and when you were over there, somebody scooped that book up from you, and then you never wrote stuff after that. You just try to memorize everything and not write a bunch of stuff down. Is that still how you are today, kind of?
It is, man. I've tried to be better about it, you know, just so I have stuff written down. And, you know, now that with the technology and you can record stuff so easily, whether it's on your phone or whatever, I'll kind of get things down like that. But back then, you know, I was just such on the run, and, you know, moved around so much, and just really kind of traveled light. And, you know, I had this little book I'd write things down in, but I'd had so many things kind of either taken away or stolen or sold that I just kind of quit hanging on to stuff. And when I got that book stolen in Paris, we were all in a bar, and, you know, we had our backpacks. It was after the show, and we were in there having a beer, and a crew of guys came through and just kind of wiped everybody out, stole everything that everybody had. And it was just kind of, I've been writing songs and then since I'd started, several years. And when that was, just see how fast that could all disappear. And just like, fuck it, I'll just memorize them. That way, which I never do. I always forget them. So.
You talk about that too, like just always kind of on the run and losing so much. You've really been on your own since you were a kid, correct? Everything was kind of fucked up, and you've really had to. You really fit the no resume tour part of this NFP podcast, because you just fucking have had to get by and do what it takes. And everybody kind of figures they live that life, or they might have had a different upbringing, but your upbringing and your life that you've made for yourself totally is what you've done day to day. So can you touch a little bit on just where you were at in those early days?
Man, to be honest with you, it was just being lost, I mean, I was pretty fortunate. My grandparents were good folks, and I had an uncle, Clay Bingham, that was kind of the guy that rode bulls, that taught me how to ride when I was a kid. He's always real solid and in my corner. But at the same time, life was hard for everybody, and everybody, they, as supportive of they were of me, they're kind of like, you're gonna have to get out there and get it, Ryan. It's like nobody's gonna give it to you. And I think just being forced into so many situations where you kind of had to make a gut decision, and you didn't really have time to think about it. It was just always kind of being at that crossroads of like, fuck, do I go left or right? Do I turn around or I keep going straight? And like just kind of always having to look out the windshield and put tape over the rear view mirror, kind of thing, and just hope for the best. And as hard as that was at times, I feel grateful for situations now, like of it being like, it forced me out of my comfort zone so much. It's like, I probably wouldn't, if I would have been home on the ranch building fence with my family and kind of safe and all of that, I probably would have never took a chance on, going out to California and playing the guitar, or going out to Paris, France. And, there wasn't anybody but myself to talk myself out of doing anything, So I just kind of went.
So on that, Ryan, like, and looking back, in any regrets on taking a left turn instead of a right along the way?
I don't have any, man, to be honest with you. Even through the things that didn't go the way I wanted, I learned something valuable from it.
Right.
And especially now, having kids of my own, or just kind of running my own business and things like that. It's just like, you kind of take the unfortunate things and just learn the positives from them, and take that with you to the next rodeo.
And because you had the right, left, or the forward, back, and growing up through all that, do you feel now that you're like, fuck it, I can handle anything they throw at me? Is that, I got it, doesn't matter?
I kind of do, in a way, not to be like too cocky about it or anything, but it's just about having a kind of a confidence of knowing that I know what it's like being at the rock bottom, and I know what it's like being dead ass broke, and I can be happy there too,
Right.
So like, even with success or material things that I may have now, like a room full of guitars and amps and whatever, trophies and things like that, it's like, if this place burned down tomorrow, I'd pick right back, load back up in the truck and go get it again.
But the street will teach you that. It will. I think we can all attest to that on this pod here right now.
I really
take things what you got. Maybe it just really makes you realize what's important, in life, and those little things, and what you can get by on, and what you can't with. So I just I don't know. It's made me realize I can get by on very little. I know that.
Yeah.
I envy that. That is something that is refreshing to hear. That yeah, it don't matter. Take it all the way. I'll kick its ass again.
Come on with it. Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah. Yeah.
So get back from fucking Paris, head out to LA. What brought you to LA in the first place, California?
Well, I mean, when I flew back from Paris, I had I think it was just the cheapest flight I could get, it was back in DFW, Dallas, Fort Worth. And didn't really have any plans or know if anybody come pick me up from the airport. So I started just looking around to see if I knew anybody in the area that would give me a ride. And there's this guy named Graylin Smith that I knew from riding bulls back in the day. And I called him up and he said, yeah, I'm actually an engineer now and I'm designing roads at the airport and I'll be there. I'll pick you up and you can come stay at my house. And so he picked me up and I got back to his house and I had my guitar there and he asked me what I was going to do. And I said, well, I'm probably give Mac a call and, go back to the ranch here in a couple of weeks, but I don't know, I might try to hang around and play a couple of gigs in Fort Worth. And he said, well, my brother's a drummer and, I'm sure he'd go play some gigs with you if you stick around for a bit. And I said, well, where is he? He said, well, his name's Matt and he cuts hair during the day, but he'll be home here in about an hour. And, so I hung around and waited on him and Matt showed up and got his drums out and we started playing in the living room and before I know it, next week we were playing over at Woody's Tavern on the west side of Fort Worth. And me and him started the band, the Dead Horses, which was the first band.
Yep.
And we just played every shithole bar we could play in Texas, for a year there and went and did a couple of music festivals. And I remember we went up to Colorado, this music festival in Steamboat, and most all the bands that were there were from Texas. And after it was over, they were all heading back to Texas and to go play the same old bars we all played every fucking weekend. And me and Matt were both just kind of, he didn't really like cutting hair much. And I was kind of down to just go anywhere. Mm-hmm. And we said, fuck it. I was like, why don't we go to LA or New York? And I was like, we're broke as hell. We can be broke anywhere. Niggas can be broke. We can go out there and be broke too, And we just literally flipped a coin and said, shit, let's, it landed on California. And it's like, let's just go and see what happens. And I knew some of these Navajo guys from the Wild West show in Paris, this guy, Lucas Hogue, and they're from New Mexico. And I called him up, and at the time my uncle was living in New Mexico as well. So I said, well, if we can make it there, maybe we'll try and get a gig. And we would just try to make it to a town and get enough gas money to get to another town. Yeah. We were just trying to see how far we could get. And we made it to Farmington and I stayed at my uncle's house for a night. And then we went down and saw my buddy Lucas down by Grant's. And then we started heading west to LA and literally called this guy, this old friend I had from Marfa. His name is Boyd Elder. And he's kind of one of these guys that just knew people all over the place. He was an artist. And I told him we were heading out to LA. And he said, well, if you're going out to LA, because I got a friend that owns a bar out in Hollywood. It's called the King. And he said, well, I'm going to call her up and see if she'll give you a gig. And so we're driving out and he calls her up and she calls us back. And she says, yeah, Boyd called me and said, y'all needed a gig. And you guys can come in there and play on Monday night. She said, I can't pay you anything, but you guys can have some beers and whatever. And we said, hell yeah, that's a deal. Let's do it. And so we literally rolled right into LA, went to this bar called the King and set up shop and played. And it was just Carla. She was working in the bar that night. And then a couple other people and this other guy. And that other guy turned out to be Mark Ford. He was the guitar player for the Black Crowes.
Yeah.
And we played for an hour and he's like, man, we came off stage. He's like, I want to make a record with you guys. And fuck, that was it. We made a record and got signed to Lost Highway Records out of Nashville. And the Never Ending Road.
Yeah.
That's a badass story. Right there.
That's fucking no resume, just going. That's fucking
yeah.
So the big break, do you feel like it was Crazy Heart, the movie, Jeff Bridges. Was that a turning point for your life, for your career? Can you walk us through that? Huge names in that movie: Robert Duvall, Jeff Bridges, T-Bone Burnett. That's where you won all these awards with. Was that kind of your first big break, or what do you look back on your life at that moment as?
Man, that definitely sealed the deal, for sure. I think one of the biggest things for me though was when I signed the Lost Highway records.
Yep.
When me and Matt first went out to LA, we had this old Suburban that a friend of us had given us, and we had just drove the wheels off this motherfucker, and we were always broke down, and we were literally just we'd be stuck in a town for like several days because we didn't have no gas money to get out of there. We'd be washing people's dishes or chopping firewood or mowing lawn. We'd get stuck somewhere and get a gig and just sing for our supper and play for tips until we could get to the next town. And we did that for like a couple of years, like from LA to New York and every like fucking Iowa and Louisiana. I mean, we would just go wherever the wind would blow, and like wherever, and it usually happened, we'd be somewhere, like we're in Louisiana, and like we weren't really trying to get to a specific town. We were always just trying to go in a specific direction. It's like, where are you going? We're going west, So people would, more often than not, they would be like, well, shit, I got a buddy that lives in so-and-so. I bet, they'd get their friends together and give you a gig in their backyard or something. And you guys could keep going. And whenever I signed the Lost Highway, they gave me in advance, some money. And that was just like the first time where like, I was like, dude, we can go get a hotel room tonight. We can go. Let's go.
Was that a good party night?
Oh,
did you guys rip her up that night?
Well, that's kind of a funny story, man, because we're coming from New York and we were trying to get to Nashville to sign the record deal. And we broke down about 4 hours east of Nashville. The transmission went out in our Suburban, and we're trying to and we didn't have like any fucking money. And so I called the people from the record label, and I was like, man, we're broke down, and we need to get a ride or a tow truck to get into town. And they sent a tow truck out to got our car and got us right into town. And the record label, the representatives from were going to take us out to dinner that night. And this is the night before we're supposed to sign the deal the next morning. And we'd get so fucking hammered that night, partying with all these record execs and shit. Like, to this day, I'm shocked that they signed us. Like, we tore that town apart, And I just remember waking up the next day going, dude, we're so screwed. There's no way they're going to sign us now, And sure enough, though, we went over to the Holiday Inn and met with them in the lobby and signed the deal. And they gave us a check, and we went straight over to this used car dealership and bought us a Ford Econoline van and hooked up. And it was just like, boom, let's go. We had some wheels, fresh new set of wheels, had some money in the bank. That was really just such a refreshing feeling of like kind of having some ground to stand on, And then when Crazy Heart and all that stuff came later, that was definitely something huge, and kind of stamped it in stone or whatever you want to call it, of just being like, this is what I'm gonna do.
How did that, like the Weary Kind, how did they find you? How did they find that song for the show, right?
A friend of mine was an agent at a big kind of film place here in LA, and he knew the director, it was a novel, the guy, Thomas Cobb, I believe his name, that wrote the original novel that they developed into the screenplay. But Scott Cooper was a director, and my friend just introduced me to him and said that they were looking for some songs and that he was a fan of some of the things that I was writing. And I went and met him for lunch one day, and he gave me a copy of the script and said, we're looking for some songs. If you're inspired to write anything, let us know. And I took the script on the road with me for a couple of months and read it and wrote the Weary Kind song. And I got back to LA, and I remember I called Scott on the phone and was just going to ask him what his address was so I could send him a copy of this song. And he said, well, I'm over here at T-Bone Burnett's house. And he goes, are you in LA? And I said, yes. He said, well, why don't you just bring it over here? And I said, okay. So I got in my Ford Econoline van and drove over to T-Bone Burnett's house. And I was just going to drop, I figured I'd just drop a copy of it off, and knocked on the door, and T-Bone answered the door, and I went to hand him the CD, and he said, well, come on inside. And so I walked in the house, and there was a whole house full of people in there. Jeff Bridges was there, and Robert Duvall, and
Wow.
all these like music people. And I mean, it was just a whole house full of people talking about this movie and these songs. And T-Bone went right over to the stereo and put the CD on right then and there in front of all these people. And I bet I had a heart attack because, I just recorded it in my fucking garage, it was like a little demo thing. And I was like, oh gosh, dang, and but he played it and listened to it, and everybody kind of stopped. And right then he goes, that's it. That's our song.
Nice.
And he goes, can you play it for us all on the couch with the guitar right now? And I was like, yeah, I can play it. And so I got my guitar out and I played it. And he said, yeah, this is going to work. And he said, why don't you stick around? We're going to write some more songs for this thing too. And so that's ended up hanging out there all afternoon. And me and him, a guy named Stephen Bruton and Jeff Bridges and a couple other guys. And we just sat there and started talking about other songs to write too, and working on that one. And that was it. Yeah.
So Jeff, a bit of a songwriter then, would you say that? Or he just dabbled?
Yeah. He's a great musician, good guitar player, and definitely kind of got that songwriter soul, and a very, very, very good person too, man. He's out of that whole experience. He was one of the nicest guys and would always take time out of his day to come say hello, and even ask if he even gave me help with the acting stuff, because originally they just wanted me to have the song in there. And then Scott was like, well, shoot, you guys should be the backup band for Jeff in this bowling alley scene and all that. Yeah. And Jeff was great. He'd come up and go over lines with me, and just, he was a busy guy. He didn't have to do any of that. So it was always thought it was great that he would take the time and even just come over and say hi and be willing to help out as much as he did,
Fucking A. So fast forward, then you write that song. It's a huge hit. The movie's a huge success. You win all those awards, the Grammy, the Academy Award, all that sort of stuff. And from an outsider looking in, it'd be like the biggest break in your life, the greatest time of your life. But in the background, during that same time, you lose both your parents.
Yeah. Yeah.
What, to have the highest, the highs, the lowest, the lows. What is that time in your life looking back? Is it good times, bad times? What do you kind of look at that, mixed emotions, or how do you recap that time in your life?
Man, it was insane. It really was. I'd had a lot of problems with my parents for a long time. They were both addicts and had some kind of mental issues and things like that. And so I'd always really struggled with that relationship with them for a long time. And obviously with the kind of recognition and some of the success I was having brought a lot of that to the surface of just my relationship with them, of having to deal with them on a regular basis when I didn't have to before. A lot of people were like, yeah, this is the best time of your life. You must be so excited. And I was like, yeah, it is. But at the same time, it's also just, it was one of the worst times of my life for sure. And a lot of those songs, and even including The Weary Kind, was really about my dad, so it was almost like having to tell, someone telling you every day that your dog died.
Right.
Yeah.
It's just like every day. It's just like I'm even when you wanted to be over it. It was just like, doing interviews and there was, what's the song about? What'd you write it for? And I wasn't able to go there yet.
Yeah.
And then also, and it was hard to sing the song, without just kind of bursting out in tears every time I would try to sing it. So it became very, very difficult, and almost kind of shell shocked me in a way of having kind of PTSD from that experience of my parents passing away, and then trying to perform and be upbeat and kind of just go through the motions with it when I was just kind of crushed. But it's kind of one of those things. It's definitely kind of made me stronger through the process. And, I've had to try to, attach different things to it nowadays than I did when it was happening. But yeah,
We've
what it is.
And we've been through that in our careers. I mean, by no means comparing mine to yours, but it's kind of like when you open the door, you put on your smiling face and everybody thinks life is perfect. And sometimes it's not. And it's tough for people that aren't in that position to understand, right?
Yeah, very much. You know, having to get up and perform in times, even when you don't, you know, you're definitely not feeling it. I know you guys do for sure. And yeah, it's like, gosh, it doesn't matter sometimes what side of the bed you wake up on, you still got to get out there and get to work some days. And it ain't always easy for sure.
Okay, what about when you missed fucking accepting your Golden Globe? Can you tell
that was a highlight actually for me. You know, out of all the things I remember those days, people were like, what was the most exciting? I was like, that was a pretty fucking exciting night. So I go to the Golden Globes, and it was the only one where my wife couldn't go with me to sit down, because they had it where it was all like a arranged seated thing. And I remember this was the very first award thing that I'd been to out of all of them. So this is to start it all off. And so I get there and they're like, yeah, you can't bring any guests, no spouses, girlfriends, nothing, whatever. And so I get there, showed up, and there was a bar like way on the other side of the building, and where like guests could hang out, you know, and they had a big screen in there where they could watch it. And so I'm sitting at this big fucking round table with all these people I don't know, and they're all hobnobbing and talking shit and doing their deal. And like, nobody's interested in talking to me, you know, they're all smoozing with each other. My buddy Jack, my agent that kind of introduced me to Scott and this whole thing. He was like, hey man, he's like, we're over here at this bar. Can you sneak away for a drink and meet us over here? And I said, hell yeah, I'll be there in 2 minutes. Well, I get up and like, it takes me a half an hour to walk across this building and get over to this bar. And I kid you not, like I'm sitting there at the bar with Jack and Colin Farrell and Jeremy Renner and a couple of other people. And like, we just get some beers and we're sitting there and they have this big screen TV. And I think Jack looks up and goes, Bingham, you just won a Golden Globe. And I'm sitting there, we're drinking beer. All we look up on the screen and we see T-Bone Burnett up on stage. And he's just looking around going, well, where's Ryan? And it's all live, you know? And so I was like, fuck, there ain't no way I'm going to make it. I'm not going to run all the way over there. So I just drank my beer. And I guess I'll get it. Get it later. And man, we had a lot of fun celebrating in that bar.
I bet. Yeah, turned it up. So your musical influences. So you've had 7 albums now, right? 7 albums are out there.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Okay. You started your own label, right?
Yeah.
Huge success in the industry. Heartworn Highways is a show that I've always been very intrigued by and always watched with Townes Van Sant, Guy Clark, Steve Earle as a young man. And guys like Terry Allen as well, that Texas country. Even though you've your music has evolved through over the years, is that where you kind of go back to? Is that your roots? Is that what you look at, guys like that?
Yeah, very much, man. Those guys definitely were the biggest influence or role models on me. You know, I think just because they're from that same area too, you know, and just were singing songs about places that I knew about. And they were songs I grew up listening to with my uncle a lot, you know, so it was very close to home. Yeah, that movie and the music from that era and those people were, that was a very, very big influence on me. Yeah,
definitely. And Terry Allen, you recently also did what's the show, the Midnight Hour presented by Yeti, right? Is that did you do that with the Malloy brothers as well?
I did, yeah. I did that with Keith Malloy, yeah.
So if anybody can hop on YouTube and go have a look at that, it's kind of, what did you do there? It was like a series with other singer-songwriters, and you guys just kind of had a visit about life.
Yeah, you know, it really kind of started, and you know, it's interesting you bring up the Heartworn Highways thing, you know, because I've done some music things like that before, but this guy Scott Ballou over at Yeti that does all their film stuff, you know, me and him and Malloy guys were talking about doing something, and we were like, well, what's it going to be about, you know? And we knew we wanted to be music based, but I was like, I wanted it to be about kind of you know, why people write the kind of songs that they do, you know, and like, and how their environment and where they grew up, how that shaped that, you know, and just like you asking me, like, what influenced me and why I write the kind of songs I write, you know. And so, you know, we did one with Terry Allen, and I did one with Jack Johnson, and one with Margot Price. And, you know, it's really interesting, you know, just kind of talking to people and being like, well, what's your story? Where are you from? And why do you write the kind of songs you write, you know, and how'd you grow up? And, you know, I know, like talking to Jack Johnson over, and, you know, he grew up surfing big waves in Hawaii, and his just, you know, it was a different experience for him growing up. Is like, he was always more around kind of like a family environment, you know, of like being in people's backyards, and on, you know, in Hawaii, they're all surfing big waves and lots of kids running around, like the atmospheres, barbecues and things like that. And how that can kind of shape the stories that you're wanting to tell that are appropriate for your audience, you know, too, you know.
Yeah.
And then thinking about kind of me playing in these rough ass roadhouses where, you know, people are getting knives pulled on them and shit, and beer bottles thrown at you, and, you know, just like the setting's different, you know, and you end up kind of writing the attitudes different, you know, or whatever that is. So it's always that was kind of the whole gist of it, was to kind of explore the culture behind the people too, you know.
Badass.
Sounds like a good watch. You have to take
It's
that
unreal.
in.
Yeah, it is really cool.
Yeah, I hope we get to do some
Midnight
more of
Hour.
them.
Midnight Hour presented by Yeti.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's unreal.
We did those 3, and we're kind of hoping to do some more, and just kind of really still kind of trying to figure out how to do it and what it's all we're going to be about. But it's a good start, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really good. So you talk about that sort of stuff too, like the songs that, say, Jack Johnson's writing and singing and playing. Your songs have a lot to do with your past and hard times and the bad shit that's happened with your life. When you're on stage and you have to play those songs night in, night out, does it take you back to those places sometimes? Is it draining, or has it come just natural now where you just kind of flow through them? Or do you feel those emotions every time you play those songs, some of those songs?
Man, it can definitely hit me harder at certain times, you know, especially if I've been on the road for a long time, just singing them every night. It's just like, yeah, it gets kind of hard to relive them. And I've tried over the years to kind of associate the songs with different kind of memories and things, you know. It's not always easy, but that, you know, you try. You know, I think when I wrote a lot of these songs when I was younger and going through that stuff, it was a way of, you know, it was a very therapeutic thing of kind of getting things off my chest and talking about things that I didn't necessarily talk about with other people. And I never expected to be in a situation like this where I'd have a career and be playing them for anybody, you know? So it was kind of like, oh, fuck, people are actually listening to these. You know, I never thought I'd, you know, be in this situation where I was doing it for a living on the road. So, yeah, and I've tried to be even conscious about that of other songs and things I write in the future, like mixing it up where they're not all just so, you know, tough to sing.
And then you got a bunch of fucks like us just keep bringing up everything. So how does it feel?
Remember when your dog died, dude? Yeah, I remember.
Exactly. Yeah. No, but it is cool for like, and for me, I always go back to that side of it with you, because that's kind of how me and you really hit it off, was just the fucking bad shit that went on. And you came into my life right after Ty Posbon had passed away. So I was lost and in a fucking, you know, I didn't fucking know what I was supposed to do. And then you, without even you knowing it, just from what you had been through and just your story, you know, maybe look in the mirror and be like, well, fuck, if he can do that, I can do this. You know, I can get through this. I can fucking push forward. And I think that's what your music does for a lot of people without you probably even knowing it. Just sitting there listening to it and listening to the words, it's like, fuck, he's talking about my life, you know, like, damn, that's fucking. And I don't know if it's probably something that you didn't even mean to do. You're just writing your real story, but you know, fucking hats off to you, because you did, you know, you've helped a lot of people without probably even knowing it, just through your music.
Well, thanks, man. You guys woke me up to a lot of that too, you know, because I didn't realize that for a long time, especially when I was younger. And, you know, it was hard to get out and say those songs. And I think when, you know, I was talking about earlier about associating new things with these songs, That's a big one. That's a big one. You know, I remember hanging out up there in Calgary with you guys and playing some tunes. And like, that's a new memory I have with those songs, you know, like whenever I get up and play them, I think about stuff like that. And I think it took me a while to realize too, that I was connecting with people, and that's kind of one thing that really keeps me going these days, of like, even to be able to get out and sing those songs over and over and over. I try to take myself out of it, and I see the people in the crowd, and, you know, whether they got tears on their eyes, or they're a big smile on their face, or, you know, they tell me a story after their show about what it meant to them or what they've gone through. And I realize, you know, everybody has their own experiences and their own stories, but we share all these things together, these emotions and how we go through them. And if these songs can help us all tap into that together and like heal from all of that, then man, I'll get out there every day and play them, you know. So that's that's definitely kept me going, man, too. And I know you guys, you know, I appreciate everything you guys bring. You guys help me get through them too, you know.
Yeah.
You know, your stories help me like realize that I'm not alone with all that stuff too. So it takes all of us to make it happen.
Yeah. So you roll on. Obviously, COVID's kind of shut shit down. You have your new album out, American Love Song. It kind of opened up though for you to kind of go full on into this acting gig, right? So Yellowstone has blown up, fucking huge. Everywhere you look, it's Yellowstone. Everybody's talking about Yellowstone, right? So how did that kind of come along, and how'd you land that gig?
Man, the same way kind of the music, the Crazy Art thing happened. I got to know Taylor Sheridan, the writer of the show, a while back, and he was a fan and wanted to use a couple of my songs in the show. And I met up with him out here, and he learned that I used to ride bulls and you know, cowboyed a little bit, and he said, well, fuck, we got to get you in the show, you know. And he's like, I don't know what we're gonna do with you, but he's like, we'll figure something out. And so he came up with my character, and he said, you know, I don't know. He said, we'll just kind of slowly introduce you in there. And he said, if you do real good, then we'll keep you in. And he goes, if you suck, we'll just kill you off.
Yeah, watch that clip. I watched that clip.
So I think for those first those first couple of seasons, you know, nobody ever knew if I was going to die or come back, because they were just waiting to see if anybody was going to like me.
Yeah.
So then I kind of got stuck doing it. And then I kind of always, you know, I was touring a bunch at the same time too. So I couldn't really commit to doing it full time. But then when the COVID stuff happened and all the touring was shut down, I was talking to Taylor, and I was like, well, I'm not doing anything all summer. And he's like, well, I'm going to write you in this thing. And it just kind of, I just kept kind of just like everything else, you know, it's like
fucking rolling. Yeah.
Just keep looking out the windshield, man. No resume.
So we don't, is it safe to say Walker ain't taking a bullet in this season then?
I won't give it all away. Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
I won't give it all away. But
Still active.
Yeah, but I can tell you, Walker's fucking tough, man. He's like, they ain't getting rid of him that
easy. So you did do some acting, obviously, in Crazy Heart, and then you were in a movie that your wife did, A Country Called Home, correct? Yeah. So it's not your first time in the acting scene, but is it something that you like and want to pursue further? I think you're probably gonna have to now, the way what success you've had doing it. But is it something that you like to do and something you want to go forward with?
Man, it is. You know, I was pretty reluctant there at first, just, you know, because it was new and didn't have much confidence in myself. But the more I've done it, and the more I've enjoyed it. You know, I've just it's become like another kind of creative outlet besides playing music and things. And what I like about it too is like I get to be in the same spot while I'm working. You know, you like rodeoing or playing music on the road, you're always just in a different town, traveling day to day. And like being up in Montana last summer, you know, I was there for the whole summer working on it, and my kids were able to come and be there for a big chunk of it. And
good.
So I really enjoy that part of it too. And as long as it's inspiring and it's good, kind of good writing and good stuff that I appreciate the integrity of, then I'm all about it.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, and I could be totally out to lunch here, but Ryan seems like Walker. Walker seems like Ryan. Am I off there? Is that character similar or what?
Man, definitely. Like I try to embellish on a few things, and growing up around enough salty cowboys, and hearing all those sayings and stuff like that. Taylor's always been really cool about if you have a line or something that this comes up, he'll let you try to, play around with the lines and things like that. So definitely having lots of flashbacks to Mac Altizer and the Del Rio days. And, even the shit that I've heard you, Tanner, and your buddy say, soaking all that, and everything from just like a saying to, an old limp behind the buck and shoots because you're fucking all beat up or what, all those little things, I think about, and a lot of times it's just being on the set, in the scene and kind of seeing these other people, how they go down. And like, I can't remember what season it was, but if y'all remember where they did the bull poker and they crushed that girl,
Yeah.
Well, that, like, I was sitting on the fence that night when we did that scene. And I mean to tell you, dude, like these fighting bulls that this guy brought over, they were the real deal.
Fuck.
And this son bitch was meaner than hell. And they're all stunt guys sitting in the arena. And I can't remember the girl's name that was doing the stunt that day, but like her back was to me. And I'm sitting there on the fence watching, and they let loose this bull. He's coming down the alleyway, just full fucking speed. Like he knew exactly. I mean, they must have had him turned down in there because he knew exactly where everybody was. He was running down the alleyway, looking at them through the fence the whole time. And when he came around the corner of that gate, he was at 9-0 and just never slowed down. And just when he hit the back of her, I thought it broke her back and wiped out the whole table and like plastic chairs breaking. And like, I was like, there's dead bodies out there. I was like, there wasn't much acting going on in that one. I was just reacting to the fucking goddamn the trauma that just went down in the arena. Like, I know you guys, if y'all would have seen that, you'd have been like, yep, that was real deal.
That was the real deal. So last time I was at your house, it was during the bull riding. I think it was in Anaheim. We stopped by and hung out for a little bit, and you were just coming back from first kind of, maybe it was just the first season, or I don't know what it was, but you were just fresh into it, and you didn't know much about it, and you said you were just working on a show with Kevin Costner, and there's a fucking grizzly bear on the scene. And we were like, oh yeah, we didn't know what it was, right? Nobody knew what it was at that time.
Yeah.
But from that time to what it is now, did you expect it to be as successful as it seems to have become?
Man, I had no idea, to be honest with you. And I didn't. Like, I just, you never know. And with those kinds of things. And I know I had a lot of fun working on it and all that stuff, but I didn't know how far it was going to reach or even, sometimes doesn't depend on if people like it or not, but it depends on whether the studio is going to put it out there in a certain way or spend the money promoting it. So there's so many of those factors that come into it too, but I'm still surprised now, man. I mean, I think too, with the pandemic going on, I haven't really been out and meeting a lot of people, but I've met people from all over the world that are just like, this is the last person that I would expect to be into the show. And they're just the biggest fucking fans you'd ever. Like, really? Wow. That's cool. So it's
everybody and their dog wants to be a fucking cowboy right now. I promise you. It's done well.
I know for a fact it will put you on your couch for about 10 hours of binge watching once you start.
Yeah. Well, this next season that's coming out is crazy, man. So like, I can't give nothing away, but if like, it's just so damn long. Get ready.
Can't wait. That's good. That's a good teaser for everybody. So what's next then? More acting, another album. What do you see in the near future for Ryan Bingham?
Yeah, man, both. Having all this time off, I've been sitting around writing a ton of songs. So I've kind of got another record in the can, and about to head back up to Montana here in a couple of months to start working on the new season of the show. And so, and then hopefully next year, the touring, I'll be able to get out there and start playing some more shows. And just kind of planning on more music, more acting. And that's kind of about it.
When you're at home writing, is it an everyday thing or just an unplanned thing, or whatever it strikes you, you go with it?
Yeah, it's kind of whenever it strikes me. I can't really just sit down at a certain time frame, and be like, okay, I'm going to write songs from 10 to 12. It's just really, I've really kind of got to find some time to just be alone and let those things come. Like, sometimes I'll sit in here for like a half an hour and just play the guitar and have a little melody. And then maybe I'll go for a walk for like a couple of hours. And like, it would be like, walking down the trail and just kind of relaxing. And then something will come. We're like, oh shit, I'll write it down. Then I'll come back home and record it. But I've never been one to really be able to sit in here and just get a pen and paper out and force it down,
Right.
You normally go to out in the desert, right? Like go to New Mexico. Remember the one time I was at your house, I got all fucked up and missed my flight. And I was trying to get back home and fucking stuck in LA.
I think all of you guys missed your flights. About 10 of you were, half of you were still asleep on my floor when I come down the next day.
Yeah. That was a good time. Good solid time. And,
good solid time.
Yeah.
I got a good story about you fuckers, man. Y'all, I think it was you and Outlaw, and I can't remember all the whole crew that was there, but like there's like 10 of these guys, and they come. Tanner was going to come stay at the house that night after the bull ride. I think it was in Santa Barbara or something. And
yeah.
Next thing I know, I got 10 of you guys down there in my barn. We're all partying to about 4 and 5 in the morning. And I'm like, God, I got to go to bed. And I go upstairs and go to bed, and every one of them had their own rental car. So I had 10 rental cars outside the house. And then the next morning I had to pick up there's like full bottles of whiskey in my garden, y'all are getting rid of all the evidence before you turn them cars back in.
Oh man, I wake up and I know that I'm missing my flight, and there's not overly too many international flights to Saskatoon from LA every day. So you miss your flight, you're fucked for a few days. So I'm hauling ass about fucking Tiger Woods and off the side of those fucking mountain hills. Fuck, it's a wreck. But the moral of the story was you were going then to New Mexico, and then that's where you go lots of times to write tunes, right? You'll go just like into a trailer and just live on your own and just get back to OG Ryan Bingham and just try to write, right? Without anybody around. You'll go for weeks at a time. Yeah,
and it's really just about getting away from distractions, and there's no phone service or internet out there, and this kind of, sitting alone with your thoughts in a quiet place can be a very uncomfortable thing to do,
Mm-hmm.
But that's really, man, that I've learned is just like, that's where I always find the stuff, is when I'm kind of going inward like that, and you're doing that kind of soul searching things. And that's when I've always found that I'll write some song or write some thought that resonates with somebody else from halfway across the world, whether we have similar backgrounds or we're from the same place. Like I'll sing that song somewhere else and somebody will go like, man, that's how I feel too, and I think we all share those same kind of things deep down, and so that's just kind of where I have to go to be able to tap into that kind of that place to get that, for sure.
Fucking A. Okay, well, Scott has our infamous question. We'll try not to hold you too much longer. I know you're a busy guy on the go, but we appreciate you coming on here.
Well, Ryan, it's been a pleasure talking with you today. Big fan, obviously. The hashtag NFP podcast. We have our take on hashtag NFP. What's yours?
Tell me yours first.
No fucking pussies.
No fucking pussies.
Which fits your life pretty good.
I thought you had a better explanation for it.
The professional here in the crowd, no comment.
Hey man, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So I'm gonna have to go with the same. Ain't no fucking pussies around here.
That's pure gold. I do want to tell one story. Ryan, the first time that we met, and then just Chase Outlaw, Matt Triplett, you flew into Calgary, and do you still do that show up in Calgary ever? You don't come to Canada very much.
I haven't, just because of what's been going on, but I'm gonna definitely try to the next couple of years. Yeah, come on, hang with you guys again. Yeah,
fucking right. So,
go promote a Western Canadian tour. Let's get on that.
Hell yeah,
fucking right. So, so we're in Calgary, me and Chase and Matt Triplett are riding, and a mutual friend from Yeti, Corey Weesey, phones and says Ryan Bingham's there. And fuck, obviously we're all huge Ryan Bingham fans, but didn't know who you were, what your story was, and all that sort of stuff. So we're like, yeah, we got to get tickets to wherever the show is. Well, there's no show. He's just doing a private gig, but all of a sudden Chase's phone starts ringing, and I look out my camper and fucking Ryan Bingham's standing outside of the camper. And I was like, whoa, like, Megan, check this shit out, my wife, right? And so we all went for supper and shit and got to know each other a little bit. As it proceeds on, Ryan, you wanted to go back and watch the Chuck Wagons, because the Chuck Wagons at the Calgary Stampede are a lot different than everything else, right?
Yeah.
So we're like, okay, well, you go to that, and then we'll meet up after. We're like, hey, we got a fucking party with Bingham. And we go try to find a guitar, because Chad Bestplug had told you that I could play guitar. And I'm like, oh my God, dude, you don't fucking like, you don't go and tell somebody like Ryan Bingham that I can play the guitar. Like, you know, like, it's like, well, don't fucking do that, man. So whatever, long story short, we all get to meet up and we have drinks all night. And once again, party way too long and way too late. But at the end of the night, you ended up giving me your guitar, which is it's on the wall right back there, which is super awesome. But the best part about it was me and Triplett, Tyler Hard, Chase Outlaw, and Jesse. We come down out of that elevator in just outside the Calgary Tower, and the bell guy's standing there, and he's like, "Hey, you guys playing any more gigs this week, or is this the only one you got?" We're like, "Yeah, no, that was the only one we got. We just went and played a show for Ryan Bingham." Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. But then the coolest part about it was after that, like, we got to know each other and we talked about kind of just getting that same mutual respect and feeling of loss and all that sort of stuff. And Chase's mom passed away the next day.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't, an hour into the day, and Chase's phone was ringing, and it was Ryan calling him just to talk to him and just to let him know that he's going to be okay. And he's been there and done that. And I don't know, it just, for me, that was just like instant respect for a guy like you, Ryan, just to reach out to Chase, and not knowing him really from Adam, just from the night before. But I know he appreciates that. And I appreciate everything that you've done for our little friend group during the passing of Ty, and just everything that we've been able to do moving forward. I know that it really shows the person that you are, and with your Cantina sessions, it shows how you try to make people feel better. You try to uplift people. You never try to bring people down. And is that something that comes naturally to you, or is that something that you have to strive for all the time?
Man, I don't know. I think, you guys show me just as much as I think you telling me I show you. I think it's just kind of about maybe having empathy and compassion for people. I know, like, maybe just kind of growing up the way I did, and was always very grateful for anybody that would just acknowledge me, and acknowledge that I was a human being. Mac Altizer was a guy that did that for me as a young kid, just kind of showing me that, like, he just saw me, instead of just passing me by and leaving me on the side of the road, like, and so maybe it's just kind of a natural thing. I just think everybody ought to, treat people how you would want to be treated too. So I just, that's kind of seems to be my default of just when I meet people, it's trying to, give them everything I can give, and would want in return, that stuff with you and Outlaw and you guys, shoot, you guys seeing me and hearing those songs and telling me that they mean just as much to you as they kind of mean to me when I write and sing them, that goes a long way too. So it's just, it's just a big revolving door, man.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay, last one. You guys good? Jason, Scott?
Well, I
got one question.
Yeah.
I got one question. I know I was doing some research on Ryan Bingham here these last few days. I read or watched somewhere where you said that you like to get the boys together and have a shot of whiskey before you go out. And I think that's a bottle over your right shoulder right there. Is that the go-to, or yeah, your other right? What's the go-to whiskey?
This is actually my new whiskey. It's called Heart 2. And it's got a bucket.
There we go. This is yours?
All right.
Buck and Bull, and that's my daughter right there on the top.
Damn.
Well,
Yeah.
badass. I
Yeah.
guess we'll just get Tanner to send all our addresses, and we'll expect a case of
Yeah.
that next week.
Shout
What's
to
it called?
them.
There
Yeah,
it is.
cheers.
Cheers.
It's called Heart 2. And this Heart 2 kind of come from a story that my uncle had taught me how to ride bulls. When he has this tattoo on his arm and it says Twister on it. And when I was a kid and he was teaching me how to ride bulls, I'd always ask him about this story. He would tell me, and he drew a bull at a rodeo somewhere, and I guess he had a brand on his hip, was Heart 2. And when he asked the stock contractor about him, and he said his name was Heart to Twist.
That's
I
good.
like it.
He was
I
just
like it.
he was double rank, and my uncle rode him and won the bull riding off of him. And it was one of those things he'd always say, if you're going to ride bulls, you have to have a lot of heart too,
Nice.
kind of kind of just stuck with that. And being on the road drinking whiskey with my buddies all the fucking time, I was like, well, if I'm gonna drink whiskey all the time with my buddies, I'm gonna drink my own.
No
Yeah.
shit.
Nice.
Where can you get it? Is it just in the US right now available, or is
Man,
it?
it's just, I just got them here at the house right now, but I'm hoping by the end of the summer I'm gonna have it in stores. So, but I'll definitely
yeah.
I'll ship a case up there to you guys if I can. If I
yeah.
keep
Nice.
trouble bootlegging across
Bootleg across the border, yeah.
across the border.
I'm just warning you though. Once the three of us get together and add whiskey, we may be phoning you at 4:30 in the morning.
That's right.
Just saying.
Hell, it might be cheaper if I just buy y'all flights to come down here. And
It
Yeah,
might
exactly.
be.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Oh.
Well, when these borders open up, we're going on tour. We're going to take
Yeah.
the pod on tour. We're going to head through Utah and stop and see the Wright family. Then we'll swing on through Vegas, probably get hemmed up there for a couple days and nights, and then we'll swing on through to Cali.
Come on and do it, man. I'd love to come and hang out with you guys again. So yeah, keep me posted and let me know the tour dates, man.
Deal.
Cool. Okay, so that night in Calgary, I remember Chad Bestplug asked you, when was the point that you feel like you made it? And your response was, I'm fucking still trying, man. I'm still rolling,
Yeah.
After all the success of your music side, now the acting side, everything, your own whiskey now. Where are you at on that question now? Do you feel like you made it?
Man, to be real honest, I feel like I made it a long time ago. I think whenever I stepped out the door on my own and just kind of went at, that was making it, whether I ever made any money or ever any success at all, it was like doing what was going to make me happy, and just kind of following my heart and just going in that direction. Cause I think after I've learned over all these years, it's like, it's like a never ending road. You just keep going. There's always obstacles in life, and having this thing of hope and all this stuff, it's just like, man, if you just know that there's going to be hard times ahead, no matter what you go in what direction, and you just take them as they come and keep your head down and keep moving forward. Gosh, even playing some of those bars back in the day with 4 or 5 of my best buddies, like that's making it.
Yeah.
You're probably not traveling quite as light these days as you were back then, though, huh, Ryan, when you leave the house?
Man, I'm not, but I'm trying to get back to it, to be honest with you.
When you do look back, like when you first started out and you first struck out on your own, are you surprised looking back how many nice people there were in your travels? I know that kind of sounds bad, but was there more nice than bad, or treated you good and helped you along?
Oh, all the way, man. It definitely wouldn't have got here on my own, all the people that had let me sleep on their couch and gave me gas money to get to the next town. You guys know it from rodeoing, that's just I kind of played music how I rodeoed, I think that I was successful in getting music and doing all that is because I did rodeo and I knew how to go on the road, and like you go and somebody puts you up at their house and you wash their dishes the next morning or help them take the trash out and you hit the road. They remember that. And next time you come through, they're like, hey man, if you come back by, give me a call. And maybe my sister's got a gig in Tulsa or fucking Tularosa or where the fuck. Or like seeing Tanner and them guys up in Calgary, you guys, like, hey, next time you come back up to the rodeo and let's play another gig, and so that's always just happened. Is it's like you meet people out there, and it's like, doing this podcast right now with you guys, we meet people in life, and you stay in touch, and there's definitely been just so many great, wonderful people out there that have helped me and encouraged me along the way, that be just forever grateful for them. Yeah.
Nice. Nice.
Okay. Well, we won't keep you any longer, man. We appreciate you so much coming on the NFP podcast presented by 3D Entertainment. This has been Ryan Bingham.